I'm live. All right. Haven't done a live in a while. I need to readjust the camera a little bit. Spit out the tobacco. Smoking a cigar. Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. Nice day out, a little humid, not bad though. We have some nice weather coming in. I love fall. Fall's a great time. Might be symbolic of something too, the way things are falling. The truth is falling into our laps, and it's up to us to decide what we're going to do with it. I have to use a lot of discernment in this time that's coming up right now. A lot of pointers. I've always had the gut instinct that things are going to happen in September, October time frame, and here we are at the end of August. We're seeing some bombs dropping. We saw today, that's the big news, I guess, right now. The news of the day in crypto anyway is that the SEC has lost their lawsuit against the grayscale spot ETF. I guess that means there's always legal wrangling, there's always this and that going back and forth, but it looks positive for a Bitcoin ETF, electronic traded fund. I don't know if I've got my letters right, my acronyms. Hey Johnny Midas, how you doing out in Cali? Better than being in Florida right now. Gosh, everything that's happening, what happened in Maui and that crap storm, and now we see another storm building rapidly, I mean very rapidly, heading towards Florida. And yesterday we saw that Citgo gas stations, the report was 11 gas stations, fuel stations I should say, because it wasn't gas, related to gas, but 11 Citgos was the word. I don't know how in-depth it is, what happened, how many more stations, but you had 11 of them last time I looked that when they have the underground fuel tanks, you see the little lids that you run over, boom, boom, when you drive away. Well, they take those off and the big fueling trucks come in and they put the fuel in the ground in these underground storage tanks. Well, there's diesel and there's gasoline. Well, apparently somebody just made a mistake and put diesel in the gas and gas in the diesel, or vice versa, whichever one it was. But you go to the pump and you need gasoline and you start pumping diesel into your tank. Well, you just ruined your car. And what a horrible time for that to happen, especially when you need to get out of Dodge. You got a hurricane coming right at you. This was in the Tampa area in Florida. Coincidence? I don't know. Are there any coincidences? Coincidence that Front Street was blocked off in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. People couldn't get out. Police officers obviously blocking it, following orders, just following orders. Makes you wonder, at what point are we going to stop following orders and hurting our fellow human beings, quit listening to vampires, and tyrants tell us what to do? You got to get in the way. You got to say no at some point. So I don't know what's going on in Florida. We'll see. I can imagine there will be some shenanigans like there always are when there's a catastrophe. What was it? I don't know who it was. It was never let a crisis go to waste. That's I don't know, it could have been John Podesta. I'm not sure who it was. Somebody of that ilk, to where, hey, if there's a crisis, how can we gain? And that's how these vampires think. So be prepared. Yeah, the WEF stooges, that's exactly what they are. Too much money, too much control, too many people bought and paid for, too many people participating in that vampire casino, taking the chips and being happy with it, getting their mansions and their cars and their nice pensions and payouts, following orders. At some point this has got to end. It's got to be exposed. There needs to be justice. People need to be brought to justice for the crimes they've committed, and we need to call that out. So far I haven't seen very much of that. A lot of talk about locking people up, but I don't see any of it. At some point that has to happen, I think. But until then, we just have to do the right thing. If you're somebody who is in a chain of command and somebody gives you an order and it's unjust and unlawful, anti-human, you probably shouldn't do it. What's it worth? Imagine if you're one of those officers who boxed people in Hawaii and hey, I was just following orders. I mean, what's on your conscience now? Unless you're evil, you've got to feel pretty bad about what you did, I would hope. You don't want to be in that situation where you carry that burden with you. You better do the right thing when you can. Sometimes you don't have all the right information, but man, common sense takes you a long way in this world. You got to do right by your fellow humans. All right, so Truth Tuesday, I just named it that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of truth every day that we should be talking about. Back to the crypto sphere, saw a little bit of a pump. Bitcoin jumped up quite a bit. I don't know, a couple $1,000s. Again, it's in dollar terms. A lot of this is manipulated, but a lot of green markets today in crypto just because of that announcement that Grayscale is going to, looks like, be on the path to have a spot ETF. And what's that mean? It means that people, big players, are going to be able to use institutional money essentially to invest in Bitcoin and invest in Bitcoin being held one-to-one, not a derivative. So Grayscale is going to have to hold the Bitcoin that you buy. Problem is, other exchanges were supposed to do that too, and they didn't. Once they shut down and they're bankrupted, you lose your Bitcoin. Ultimately, it comes down to, yes, more dollars may inflow to Bitcoin and eventually other cryptocurrencies, but you've already got the ability to hold the cryptocurrencies on your own now one-to-one. That's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be allowing them to be custodians and hanging on to our Bitcoin for us, hanging on to our cryptocurrencies for us. That's not what crypto is invented for. Cryptocurrency, if you look at the Satoshi white paper, the inventor of Bitcoin, the pseudonym anyway, Satoshi Nakamoto, it's to create a system where you have peer-to-peer electronic transactions outside of a financial institution. So why are we looking to financial institutions to anoint this thing, this new technology? Why are we looking to them for validation when we have our own validation? Because we've got networks that have been running for a long time. Litecoin running for almost 12 years. October, it'll be 12 years straight, uninterrupted, sending value peer-to-peer. Nothing can stop it outside of a financial institution running on its own independent network, outside of the vampire casino. We should be using this stuff. We can hold it in our own possession. Quit looking for permission. You've already got a permissionless economic system now. Keep this thing puffing away here. Got a little text message here. This is what happens whenever I go live. Hang on. Sorry. All right, you can tell it's live. There are no edits. Hang on. Okay. Anyway, you see a lot of the news right now. It's almost like on the one side you've got everything that's happening with Trump, and you see a lot of people I've watched on Twitter. A lot of people in the black community are coming out and saying, Trump, he's my man, he's my man. You got a mugshot, and they're like, yeah, now you know what it's like. And now this is what it's like for us, and we can relate. We can relate to Trump. They're treating him like he's a thug. They're treating him like he's a criminal, giving him a mugshot. This is ridiculous. And it earned a lot of votes in the black community. I see a lot of people talking about it. Big mistake on the part of the other side, or is it? I can't help but think, let's go back. Let's rewind. 2016. I gotta be honest. I mean, I gotta tell it like it is, how I feel, what I've gone through. Because ultimately, you gotta trust yourself. No man is going to save you. Really, you gotta know that. All right, back in 2016, when Trump was running for election, I had my doubts. I'm like, look at his history. I don't know what he's all about. I had my doubts. Okay. The media industry and some of the things he said. I just don't know. Is this guy really going to do what he says? And I thought, man, you think of the pictures and hanging out with all these big players, Epstein and Clinton's. Again, pictures are pictures. I've got pictures with people. I got a picture hugging Alex Mashinsky, the Celsius guy. I thought he's a pretty decent dude. I mean, I hung out with Ben Armstrong, and he's going through some trauma right now. And it's just, and I knew that, and he was very open about it. I mean, his history. But he had an addictive personality, a very driven personality. If you got any kind of, I don't want to get off on this tangent, but any kind of addiction, you know, it's you're driven. You just, you know, here I am smoking cigars. And so we all have our addictions. But I mean, he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But again, you know, when things can steer you the wrong way, you know, when you've got an addictive personality. And, you know, you just wonder, you know, what drives a person. We're all human beings. We're all mixtures of good and evil. All right, so you can take a picture with somebody. What's it really mean? But back in 2016, I know where I was. I was mowing the grass, and I know exactly where I was. And the thought entered my mind, or I thought, you know, what if Trump is just another side of the same coin? You know, we've got, oh my gosh, bad Democrats, and oh, you know, bad Republicans. They all hate Trump. Everybody hates Trump, you know, and then he gets elected. And with the establishment hating him as much, the Bushes, Jeb Bush, you know, and all this, everybody hated him. Obama hates him. Biden hates him. And you think, well, if they all hate him, then he must be decent. Now, let's not deceive ourselves. You know, the thought goes through my mind that what if this is a big show? And not in a show the way we think it is, but a bigger show to where you really do have dark and light, dark to light. And maybe we're just looking at the darkness now and the evil side of the same coin, that, you know, the obvious side of the same coin. And then, you know, we have a light side of that same coin to where, hey, it looks like it's going to be a lot better, but maybe they potentially serve the same master and it's all a big show and a big ruse on us just to kind of coax us down a certain path. Maybe it's all theater and it's all a control system, and everybody on every side is part of the game. Anybody, and I've always said this, you know, I got to the point where, you know what, it doesn't matter if it's Democrat, Republican, I'm not voting for him, and I got to that point where I'm not voting for him. I voted for Ron Paul just because I think he's a decent guy, sound money, and you saw what the establishment did to him, didn't give him any time, but his message was good and his actions were good, and so I respect him. Then you got a situation now where I think it's easy to persuade, or I should say it's easy to manipulate people in this current narrative to where obviously it's so bad. And look what happened before, you know, we're building back the economy, everything looks great, make America great, you know, so we got a taste of that and said, you know what, this is a lot better, this is good. Now we see the dark side of it. Okay, now that we see the dark side, it's very easy to bring back in, you know, what we perceive as a lighter side or a more hopeful side. And you got to ask yourself, is it going to change? And I've always been of the mindset, you know, deep down, that it really doesn't matter. Whoever's running for president has been selected to run for president. They won't let them run unless it serves a greater agenda. And I just ask that we all take a deep look inside and realize in ourselves, in our gut, find that guidance, you know, to the source, to who you know you are. Look upward, look inside and connect upward, and, you know, really use discernment in this time and determine for yourself, am I getting played here? Are we getting played? I mean, is this a really big master chessboard that, you know, we're just getting manipulated with? You really got to ask yourself that. Now, I'm hopeful that that's not the case. I see some positive things, but as I kind of started out with, I don't see anybody going to jail. I don't see anybody getting stopped from doing what they're doing. And why is that? Why are they continued to allow it to perpetuate? And I don't want to put myself into some kind of narrative that says, well, it's meant to be that way. It's meant to be that way. It's part of the show. And I get it. It could be, but it could be part of a bigger show to where it's all theater and we're all getting played. And so you ask yourself, are we getting freer? Will we be freer? Look what happened, you know, no matter who's in charge, the debt goes up, money gets printed, we become more and more enslaved to a system that wants to enslave us, that wants to steal our energy and rob our energy. Every president who comes in, and I know Congress issues the money, but the president has a bully pulpit and can get that money issued, and they're all willing participants. We have been on that path to enslavement no matter who becomes president. They're robbing us of our energy every time. They're stealing our wealth and making it more difficult for us to survive as human beings. What is being done to fix that process, that long-term process? And that's what I ask myself, that's what I struggle with, that's what I hope all of you struggle with, and really take a hard look at. That, are we given a false sense of hope, an illusion? Is that what's being done? Because you got unlimited money, you can create all the illusions you want. What's interesting to me is, in the past, threats to the system, legitimate threats to the system, they took them out. They got rid of them. Trump's still around, so makes me wonder there. If they're allowed to persist, and and all these indictments and all these things, I mean, they're fluff. I mean, there's really nothing to it. There will be nothing to it. Is it just adding to the theater and building drama? Take a hard look at what's going on. Trust your gut on this stuff. Don't get played. Let's not have a situation where it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss, because that's kind of the way it's always been. Those people who try to rock the boat and upset the apple cart, they usually take a bullet. Problems get eliminated unless they're useful problems. That's all I ask, is just use a little discernment. Tragic situation, just to look back at Hawaii a little bit. We were first told that, hey, it's Hawaiian Electric. They didn't cut the power. Why didn't they cut the power? It's all these arcs and all these sparks, all these things happening. That's what started the fire. These poles from the winds getting knocked over. And now it turns out that Hawaiian Electric did shut down the power. And then their stock price has gone way up because it's like, well, it looks like they're not culpable anymore. They're not liable. They didn't do it. They cut power. Last report I saw was 6 hours before this thing hit. So where'd the fires come from? How did the fires get started? Now, some people say it's a directed energy weapon. Some, it could be arsonists. We just saw that in, where was it? I don't know, in Europe. I don't know. I can't remember what country it was. Greece, maybe? Not really sure. But several arsonists, see, they want to blame it on global warming because that, or climate change, I'm sorry. Oh, it's so hot, this is what happens. Well, you don't clear the brush, and so you've got all this kindling all over the place. Same thing happens in California. And you don't have the water available, because of water rights and water management, whatever it is, even though you're surrounded by an ocean. Okay, kind of ironic. You say that it's coming from the power company, and the power company didn't do it. You had arsonists arrested in a country, and I'm thinking it's Greece, but arsonists arrested, who started these fires. Okay, so maybe it's something as simple as an engineered situation. I mean, it's not hard to start a fire. I just burned yesterday, and it doesn't take much. Take the little cigar lighter and put it out there in the pile, and boom, I've got a towering inferno. And imagine if there's all kinds of other things that could catch fire, and what happens. And then if you box people in, the people who have the rights to that property, and you can't find them anymore, they disappeared. You've got a sheriff, or I should say a police chief. Is his sheriff? The sheriff, I think he is, the guy from Las Vegas, who's also the coroner, so he handles the bodies. You've got certain people who in control who can steer the narrative, and they don't let people into Maui, not letting press in there. We don't hear anything about it. We don't hear anything about the missing people. That's all coming from people on the ground. There's a guy out there, real estate, runs a real estate agency, who's got boots on the ground, interviewed people, and they're telling the story of, hey, they blocked off Front Street. I couldn't get out. I had to essentially go around the authorities and not follow the rules to survive. If you didn't go outside the boundary and exit that casino, basically, they're trying to shut the doors on you. If you didn't say, no, I'm getting out, I'm going, going down a one-way street when I shouldn't, or I'm going through a parking lot or going through a yard to get away, you couldn't get away because you were at a pinch point. And it's looking more and more like this was some sort of, I can't blame it on, it's hard to blame it on incompetence at this point. It really is, when you see what's happened. These people were allowed to die, didn't let them out. And you ask yourself why? Why is that? Some prime real estate there, man. And if you can't identify the bodies, you don't have any DNA, and you're somebody like a son, a daughter, or somebody somewhere else, what claim do you have? And yeah, you can look at property records and make the claim there, but in a state of emergency, which they're in right now, you're basically under martial law and the government rules. At what point do they come in and say this is a terrible catastrophe? We just need to take over the land, and we'll do what we will with it. And then what are you going to do about it? When they own the police force, they own everything there, they control it, and they're not letting anybody in, and you've got a government, a national government, which is basically a foreign power, which will not come in and help. And that's 100% the case. There's so many stories of supplies being sent there and just sitting, not being allowed. And then the locals, they're delivering the supplies. I mean, what's really going on here? But time will go by, the evidence will be destroyed, just like 9/11. Hey, get rid of the steel while it's still on fire. It's still hot. Send it to China, and the next thing you know, it's the crime scene has been tampered with. And how do you do any evidence? How do you find any evidence at that point when it's completely been tainted? That's why I worry about what's happening in Florida now. They could repeat the same thing. Just look for the shenanigans that go on after this hurricane or during this hurricane. The gas thing, it could have been a coincidence, mixing the gas and the diesel. People can't get out because their cars are ruined. Maybe it's not. If there are 11 gas stations, how many? Is it one tanker truck with one knucklehead that can't tell the difference between diesel and gas lids and puts the wrong in at 11 different places? Or is it multiple people? And if it's multiple people, why is that? How all of a sudden can they make such a mistake at the most critical time when people need this stuff? Again, engineered destruction, it seems to be the narrative. That's what's happening. That's why it's so important to not trust any of these people in charge. None of them. You really can't. There's too much at stake. They play by different rules. It's a bigger system. It's a bigger thing than we can imagine. And it might be way bigger than we can ever fathom. It might be a grand chessboard. And we're just the pawns. So what do you do about it? Well, you gotta trust. Trust in yourself. Know what you're about, know where you come from. Don't put your faith in any man. Because all they do is lie. They just don't tell you the truth. I saw that, here's another one. I saw that if Trump gets back into office, he's going to declassify the JFK documents. Now, he was in office, said he was going to declassify them, said, well, I tried, not all of them. He waffled around on it. Why now? Why does it take the second time to get in to declassify these things? Why make America great again when you get in again? Really got to question some of this stuff. It's kind of repeating the same narrative. Why wasn't the wall built? Now, you can blame it on the other side, this and that, but, you've got the power to be able to do those things and get that stuff done. Why wasn't it done? Just some questions to ask. What makes you think it's going to get done now? A lot of people have come in the meantime. A lot of damage has been done to this country, and I feel for the people who are living in conditions who want to get here, because this, more than anything, is the most, I don't want to say the most free place on the planet, but I want to say it's got the most potential to be free. We've got vast amounts of land, we've got plenty of water, we've got plenty of soil. We can grow things. It's a wonderful place to live, but you can't just let people run into your country and take it over. That's what happened in Rome. You had the hordes coming in from the outside, from the north, invading and basically just taking over. And I see a lot of the same analogies here. What's happening in the United States, these United States, it's really not the United States, it's these United States. Need to really take a hard look at what's happening, what we can do in a personal level, at a local level. I think Washington, D.C. has failed us. I think more than that, they have purposely failed us And anybody who's taking over and wants that position, I don't know if they get it, honestly. Why is Ron DeSantis leaving Florida trying to become the president of the United States? Secure Florida. Take care of Florida. Make it a sanctuary. Make it a bastion of freedom. All these governors can do that right now. Why would you want to take over this monolith, this thing that is, it's really just this vampire squid? Are you really going to be able to fix it? I mean, I think at the state level, at the local level, we just cut it off. We just don't let it feed on us anymore. Just my opinion. I get it, you know, you can do some things, you can do some good things when you're in charge at the top, but we tried that for 4 years. You know, I voted for Trump. I wanted him to go in there and wreck things. I wanted him to go in there and break Washington. And I don't think anything happened. I haven't seen anything happen, no tangible results. We still have the same dark entities running things as we did 4 years before that. Even if you want to do it, I don't know that you can do it, is really what it comes down to. So I think it's important to really focus on what we can do, what we can control, and we can, at a local level, exert more authority, because that's really where the power is. Ultimately, it devolves to the people. You know, it is us who make the decisions. It is our people in our communities, our friends, our family members in the county, and then the next county, and then the state. I mean, that's where the real power is, and I think we've lost the sight of that. We look at it as, hey, somebody's going to come in and save us at the top. And nobody's going to come save you in government. Nobody. I don't care who it is. Because if they do, they're going to have to be tyrannical, and they're going to have to not abide by the Constitution, because it's so entrenched, the evil right now, that there's no way that you can go in there and do it the right way and follow the rules to exterminate these rats, to drain that swamp. It's almost impossible at this point. So I think it has to happen in a more decentralized way, to where we don't feed it anymore. We let it wither and die on its own and quit supporting it. Don't follow orders. If it's unjust, it's inhuman, don't follow it. It's up to you. It's your duty to get in the way, especially if you're in the chain of command. I mean, you don't follow unrighteous orders, is what it comes down to. And that's at every level, everything that you do, no matter what your job is. You know when you're being told to do something wrong, and you just don't do it. And we're at a point where, you know, be damned with the consequences of it. They're going to try and lock you down again. They're going to try to inject you with more poison. Are you going to let them do it? You know, it's not just masking. It's about total control and obedience, and that's where they want you. And if you're compliant, if you're obedient, and you allow it to happen, they're going to continue to exert tyranny on you. If you're an officer and you say, hey, arrest these people, they're not wearing a mask, or hey, you know, you can't come in here without a shot. Well, I'm going to take you to jail because you didn't have one. Well, why be that person? Why be that officer? You know, quit following these unjust mandates that aren't legit. Not lawful. Lawful in the sense of human law, common law, not statute, not crap that they pass out of Washington, D.C. That stuff doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because it's not true. It's not lawful. And so you got to get in the way of that stuff. And if you don't, you're part of the problem. So let's not be part of the problem. Let's not give our energy to that problem. Let's give our energy to the things that matter. Starts at the local level. All right, don't want to be too preachy, but it's just how I'm feeling right now. We got to question everything. We got to use discernment. There's going to be a lot of evil, and it comes in many forms, and it's going to come in a form that is very nice and pleasing and hopeful. But does it change anything? You know, is it changing anything? Is really what it comes down to. Are there things that we can do now, regardless of who's in charge? Those are the kind of things we got to look at. How do we fix it? What can we do to fix it? What can we do to get in the way of it? More than anything. All right. Prepare yourselves, because anything can happen at any time. You see what's happening in Florida. It can come out of nowhere seemingly very quickly. Got to be prepared. Put yourself in a position where you can survive as long as possible, because survival through this is the most important thing. Hanging on to truth, being able to tell the truth after some of these things go down. Live to fight another day. got to be your mentality every day. What can I do to change things in some small way? Because together, many small changes equal great things. So be thinking along those lines. Pray for the people in Florida. Pray for the people in Hawaii. Pray for humanity. Pray that we do the right thing and we are not deceived. Pray that we listen to ourselves, trust ourselves, and realize where we come from. And got that direct conduit, no middlemen, go right to the top. All right. Just some things to think about. That's what I'm thinking about today. Hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. Always trust yourselves. There are a lot of vampires out there. Do not trust them. A lot of vampires. They come in many shapes and sizes. All right. Love you all. Thanks for hopping in. I appreciate you all. I really do. Have a wonderful day, and always trust yourself.